Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about, does a 16-inch 308 make any sense? How much of energy, how much performance are we losing by going down to the 16-inch barrel? Obviously, we're getting a much lighter gun. So this is something I've kind of been thinking about for the last year, ever since I got this 20-inch AR-10 here. So I've been contemplating, should I get a 16-inch AR-10, right? Now, luckily I've got this veper 308, right? This has a 16-inch barrel, so I'm able to do a whole bunch of testing, and I've concluded, it took me about a year, but I've concluded that there is a nice payoff if you have a 16-inch AR-10. What you're losing, what you're giving up for the shorter, lighter gun is not a whole lot. I mean, it's there, it's something, but it's not a whole lot. Okay, so like I said, I've been working with this now for about a year. The thing that was kind of like definitive for me is I had this 16-inch veper AK-308. I was shooting it at 300 yards and 400 yards, and I was shooting a steel plate. Now, this wasn't rifle rated. This was not a rifle rated target. So I shot it with 77 grain 5.56, and it just like took the paint off, right? I shot it with the 308 out of this 16-inch AR-10, and it cratered it pretty good. Okay, so it sunk in pretty good. It didn't penetrate it all the way, but it sank in pretty good. And this gun over here, right, with the scope weighs about 10 pounds. Okay, so obviously you can take, I mean, the scope itself is 1.5 pounds, so you can lighten the gun up from there if you needed to. But this 10-pound gun is, I suppose with a loaded magazine, might go up to 10.5 pounds. I mean, this is pretty good if you have to travel through the woods, okay, or across a field, right? Run across a field, and you need to be light and mobile. Because and that has to be for a specific purpose, okay? Like one of the things I've concluded that from zero distance all the way out to 600 yards, right? Even 700 yards, a 77 5.56 will do the job on soft, fleshy things. Okay, so even at those extended distances of 600 yards plus, 5.56 will do the job. Okay, I've seen that plenty of times. I've shot up plenty of targets at those distances. But if you need barrier penetration, right? Even let's say you got a vehicle that's charging at you, and you got to put a lot of fire on it to try and disable it. Or if let's say you're hunting a large, thick animal, right, where you need a bullet that's going to travel through the body of the animal in order to drop it. Yeah, absolutely, 308 is the way to go. So now that's obviously that's pretty common knowledge, right? The question was, is the 16-inch barrel going to be sufficient? And the impacts that I saw on that steel plate at 300 yards, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. This is a very good hit. Those are, I thought those were very good hits on that steel plate. Okay. Now, if for that 300 to 500 yards, the 16-inch barrel will do a nice job. If you gotta go, let's say a little bit further, from 500 to 700 yards, 500 even further out, right? Let's say closer to 800 yards, out to 1,000 yards, absolutely. For barrier penetration, getting through things, right, thick pieces of meat, the 20-inch AR-10 is the way to go. However, realistically, most of the time it is pretty hard to see past 500 yards. Okay, here I can only see whatever. Most of the time I can only see around about 100 yards. Over here, I have to carve a path out so I can shoot 200 yards. So for most of the engagements, I think they're going to be inside of 500 yards, right? Unless you're like in a really elevated position. And I think that the payoff of the 16-inch of a 16-inch AR-10 or any 16-inch 308 rifle The payoff of having the lighter rifle so that you can get to that position that you need to get to faster is, I think, is going to outweigh the benefits of having a slightly longer barrel. Okay, so when I was testing this out, the ammunition that I was using was this American Sniper 7.62 by 5.1. So this is at the lighter end of 308 ammunition, 308 7.62 ammunition that I have. The reason why I chose this to test it out is, well, for one thing, because it's lighter stuff. I want to get rid of it, right? I want to use it up. So that's one reason. The other reason is that this veper 308 does not have an adjustable gas block. And given that, you know, this is basically a collector's item at this point because they're not importing these anymore, I didn't want to beat the gun up any more than it needed to be beat up. I can't get replacement parts. So that's another reason why I decided to go with the lighter shooting 308, which at the 300 yards was still cratering a steel plate. Okay, so it's sufficient, right? Even at the lighter, you know, even though this is lighter ammunition. So let's look at some numbers. Let's start off with the 77 grain 5.56, right? So I was using on target, which is basically budget match grade. This is that's like your budget match grade ammunition. Okay, so with 77 grain out of an 18-inch barrel, I was getting an energy of 1,200 foot-pounds, momentum of 28, and all it did on that steel plate was just basically just take, like, scratch the paint off it. Okay, so it was not able to you know, to really to do anything to the steel other than take the paint off it. Okay, so the 149 grain American Sniper over here, out of the 16-inch barrel, right, of that AK veper over there, 2,000 foot-pounds of energy and a momentum of 52. Okay, now when I shot that same ammunition out of the AR-10 over there with the 20-inch barrel, so with the 20-inch barrel, it had an energy of 2361 and a momentum of 57. Okay, so there was definitely an increase in energy and momentum. Now, I've shot out of both of these rifles. I have shot a variety of different ammunition. The gap that I see between the 16-inch and the 20-inch, right, with this ammunition is the highest I've seen it, because the gap here is like, it's 360 foot-pounds, okay, of energy. With most of the other ammunition that I shoot through those two rifles, both of these numbers go up significantly, right? But the gap is only like 200 foot-pounds. So let's say when I shoot the Freedom munitions, right, the energy number goes up to 2,600 foot-pounds, right? But so out of the 20-inch, but then out of the 16-inch, you'll be like 2,400 foot-pounds. Okay, so the gap is normally only about 200 foot-pounds. With this ammunition, the gap is bigger, right? The reason why I suspect the gap is bigger with this ammunition is because this is probably a slower burning powder. So what that means is, because it's a slower burning powder, in the 16-inch barrel, the gunpowder doesn't have enough time to burn inside the barrel, so a lot of the burning occurs outside of the barrel. So that's why the gap, I think, with this particular ammunition is larger. Okay, so that's something that you want to pay attention to if you're going to have a 16-inch 308, AR 16-inch AR-10. You want to use an ammunition that has a faster burning powder, so that the more the gunpowder is going to burn inside of the barrel, and it's actually working to push your bullet. Okay, and the only way to know that is to have a 16-inch, AR-10, or in this case an 16-inch AK, and a 20-inch AR-10, and you shoot both through a chronograph, and you see what the differences are. And you wanna pick an ammunition where the gap is as low as possible. So the one that I have found is Freedom Munitions, that has a very small gap. which means it's a faster burning ammunition. So that's what you would want to shoot out of your 16-inch AR-10. Okay, now with AR-10s, absolutely get one with an adjustable gas valve. Right, this Palmetto has an adjustable gas valve that has 3 slots per turn, right, for a total of 17 positions. Yeah, 308 ammunition tends to be all over the place, so you want something that is highly adjustable so you can really fine tune it to the gun. So like with this, even when I shoot like the really hot stuff, like I have it like in the 2nd or 3rd position, and the recoil is pretty light. Okay, so since this this AK-308 here does not have an adjustable gas valve, that's the reason why I picked the ammunition that was was the least powered, so it would beat the gun up less, especially on the gun where I cannot get replacement parts. Okay? So, but the thing is, like, I got these numbers here, which I've collected over the last year. But the thing that really made up my mind, right, was seeing the actual impacts on the steel at 300 yards, right? I'm seeing the 77 grains. They're just taking the paint off, right? And I'm seeing the 308s. They're cratering it. I mean, yeah, granted, if it was a 20-inch barrel, it would have cratered it even slightly deeper. But it doesn't matter, because at that distance, right, at that 300 to 500 yards, it's sufficient, right? It'll do the job. So to me, there's a payoff there. The payoff is, carrying a lighter gun, right? That one that weighs about 10 pounds versus, in 16-inch barrel, versus going with a 20-inch, and you're picking up an extra pound or two in that barrel length. Okay, so at my earliest convenience, I definitely want to get a 16-inch AR-10. I'm pretty satisfied, because again, having some 308 rifle to compare, in 16 inches to compare to a 20-inch 308 rifle, you can collect this data, you can see the impacts downrange, and that basically you're able to make these conclusions, since a lot of people don't have 2 rifles side by side, right? That shoot 308 in these 2 lengths. I figured I'd share this data with you guys. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Drop some comments below and check your subscription. So let's take a look at I shot the steel first. And I was holding my 1 mil like right in the center. And it looks like I got 3 impacts like really close here. 1, 2, 3 impacts. I mean, that's like really close. The other ones went right around it. I'm actually surprised I managed to get 3 impacts that close. 1, 2, 3 with this rifle and the scope on it.